Hello, welcome to Sugar Swap, a holiday survival webinar presented by myself, Melissa Vertosik, certified holistic health coach and author and owner of the Whole Life Approach. I'm so excited that you've taken this time to join me in learning about sugar, as well as its effects on our body and how we can limit it during this sugar season. It's just basically, in general, I mean, for our society, it's almost all year round, but I do consider the sugar season to be basically Halloween through the new year, where we just seem to be inundated with treats and candies and cookies, you know, everywhere. Whether it's at work or at home, you know, kids bringing things home, or, you know, you yourself cooking and baking because it's part of the holiday season. So to start off, let's talk a little bit about sugar and what it is and what it does to your body. In general, you know, sugar takes many forms. It's a part of the carbohydrates, and so you actually do need sugar for your body. It's one of its energy sources. Your brain needs sugar, your body needs sugar, but the problem comes with the type of sugars that you're choosing to consume and the quantity. Studies have shown that last year, in 2013, Americans on average consumed 156 pounds of sugar throughout that year. That's a huge amount. You know, it's actually kind of unfathomable that, you know, it's like a whole person. And so, yeah, on average, we're consuming that. And about half of those pounds of sugar were found to be consumed in our beverages. You know, that's a place that we generally don't think about. You know, for cutting out sugars, we think about the, you know, breads, the pastries, the pastas, you know, the cookies, things like that. But, you know, we really don't think about, you know, the juices that we're drinking, milk, if you're drinking milk of any kind, lattes, things like that from Starbucks or another coffee shop, alcohol, which is, you know, definitely for some people is part of this season. So all of those things are sources of sugar that we definitely don't think about. So yeah, definitely take a look at what your diet looks like and see, you know, how much sugar you are consuming. According to Dr. Sears, 1 teaspoon of sugar can suppress your immune system for 5 hours. And so that's also another thing to think about, you know, with this season upon us where the weather's cold, you're with everybody, and we're all eating sugar. And so we wonder why we're getting sick and things seem to spread. So definitely something to think about. And I Googled, you know, right before we started to see how many teaspoons were in a pound of sugar, since, you know, I talked to earlier about 156 pounds per year on average being consumed. And with Dr. Sears' findings of 1 teaspoon suppressing our immune systems for 5 hours, I have found that there's 109 teaspoons in a pound of sugar, so that's quite a bit. Sorry about this. You know, so you're thinking about how many hours that is that our immune system is being suppressed on average. So we know a little bit about that. Like I said earlier, your body does need some sugar to provide energy, to keep us alert, and to regulate our body and keep it healthy. But ways to eliminate or reduce the sugar intake, mainly we're looking at artificial sweeteners, which should definitely be avoided at, you know, all costs, as well as the refined white sugar. The artificial sweeteners that I don't prefer is because they're made chemically, they're made in the plant. So our bodies don't really know what to do with it. You know, they tout it as being low calorie, you know, sweetener, which is true, but it's at the same time it's our bodies just aren't made to handle the chemicals that are going into that. The white refined sugar is just as bad in the sense that, by refining the sugar coming from the sugar cane, you're depleting all of the minerals out of it. You're pulling it all out. And so then what happens is our bodies, in order to digest it, has to pull minerals from our stores, our organs and tissues. And so basically what's happening is with consuming white sugar, you're getting a double whammy. Sorry about that. A double whammy in the fact that it's not nutrient dense, it's actually nutrient deficient, and it's depleting your nutrients as well. So it kind of is, works awful at both ways. So to kind of help you get a good handle, like I said, we consume a lot of sugar, and we want to, work on strategies to eliminate and reduce. And part of that is knowing what are sugars. I mean, things are hidden in packaged and processed foods that we may or may not, it's not going to necessarily say sugar. They hide it in different ways. And so basically, on average, anything that ends in OSE, so like maltose, dextrose, those are sugars. So that ending OSE tells you that it's a sugar. The other thing is like OL, so like xylitol is a common one, especially found in chewing gums, and that is actually a sugar alcohol. So again, it's similar in the sense that it has like no lower calories, it doesn't spike your blood sugar as much, but at the same time, it is still a sugar. And you will be getting here at the end of the webinar a small handout, and it's going to have you can't really see that, but it's going to have the some guidelines on what is sugar in your food labels. Because like I said, it doesn't always just say sugar. You've got the pure cane sugar, you've got sugar extract, you have brown sugar, high fructose corn syrup, which we all have heard quite a bit about as, something to avoid, fructose, sucrose, maltodextrin, there's a lot of different sugars out there. In fact, I found an article, and if people are interested, I can post it, and it listed 75 different types of sugar that are found in products, and that's like nowhere near the beginning of what's out there. So that's the first strategy, and looking to eliminate or reduce the amount of sugar in your diet is just to pay attention to the foods that you're consuming and looking at the food labels to find those ones that if you are going to consume something with sugar, that it's a healthier form rather than like the high fructose corn syrup or any of the aspartame, Splenda, things like that. Are things that you would definitely want to put back on the shelf if the product contains it. And I encourage you, since I said earlier about half of our sugar comes from our beverages, to really take a look at what's being put into your Starbucks latte, so that way you kind of have you're better educated about what exactly you are consuming. So that's the first strategy, reading your food labels, looking for those terms that, tell us that there's sugar in them. And of course, with the food labels, if one of the sugar forms is within the first 5 ingredients, definitely put it back on the shelf. The first ingredient is always the largest by weight in the product. So that's going to be the one that has the most quantity out of all the ingredient list. So definitely, if sugar is towards the bottom, it's just lightly sugar. So that's the first strategy, reading your food labels, becoming more aware of where your sources of sugar are coming from. So next strategy is to plan ahead. If you have dietary restrictions, you're probably already used to doing this, where you bring your own dish to a party to make sure you have something to eat. So I encourage you to think about like what you have going on during your week, and taking that time, whether it's Sunday or Wednesday, whatever day works for you, to plan ahead. So that could be, you know, putting snacks into smaller containers so that way you can take them with you, and ensuring that you have a healthy snack before a party or before a luncheon at work, places where, you know, you may not have as much control over what you're being served. That also helps if you're, you know, out shopping or things like that, you know, to keep your blood sugar stable, because that's another source of why we reach for a lot of sugars. When our energy gets low, we want something quick. So, you know, having something healthy on hand is a great way to prevent that kind of like panic of, oh my goodness, I'm so tired, my blood sugar is going down, I need energy fast. And because you're planning ahead and you're packing, or, you know, knowing where you can get healthy snacks, you know, making sure it has fiber and protein with it. Those two things kind of help to sustain our energy, sustain our bodies, sustain our blood sugar levels, because they control how fast the blood sugar, you know, your sugar goes into your blood. So it keeps it more even keel. So we have food labels, planning ahead, and then, of course, slowing down. You know, there's a lot of times we're at a party and we just kind of eat, and we do very mindlessly, and we consume a lot more than we realize. So the couple things that with slowing down is, you know, paying attention to what you're eating, you know, actually enjoying it. So if you choose to eat that cookie, you know, you totally enjoy it, so you don't feel the need to have more than one. Getting enough sleep, which is a really tough thing sometimes at this time of year as we're trying to wrap everything up for the year end. But getting enough sleep will help us to make better choices. So you can then, you know, makes it easier to eliminate or avoid the sugar options. So part of slowing down can be delegating, you know, so just so that way there's not so much on your plate that you're feeling overwhelmed and stressed. Because again, you know, a lot of times when we reach for sugars as, you know, a way of coping with emotional stresses and feelings. And so this can be, you know, delegating, even though it won't be done the way, you know, you do it, you know, but just, you know, involving other people can be very helpful in cutting back on the amount of sugar that you're consuming. And of course, exercise is another thing that helps to curb sugar cravings. You know, it keeps you grounded, keeps you kind of more focused, as well as it, you know, boosts your metabolism. And so then having a little treat here and there, your body can better use it. So, you know, exercise is, again, just like sleep at this time of year tends to get pushed to the back burner, and it's really an important component in keeping your sugar cravings down. And of course, then the other one is doing a sugar swap, which is the theme of my blog posts and things this month. If you haven't seen them, I encourage you to check them out. And basically, it's replacing the white stuff, you know, or the highly refined sugars, things like that, with more natural sugars. The benefit of the natural sugars is generally that they're fiber rich. So if you're thinking about, like, you know, using apples or dates, things like that, they have fiber in them as part of that. And so, as I said earlier, fiber can help to slow down the absorption of the sugar in your body and keeping things more stable. So replacing, you know, using natural sugars to replace the white stuff, whether it's in your beverages, your morning breakfast, your cookies that you're baking for the holidays, things like that, just to kind of give yourself a little nutrient boost. As part of the handout, we will be giving you a list of different sugars, natural sugars that you can use to substitute, as well as the benefits of, you know, like, how do you use it? Why would you use it? Because some things are not always good for different things. Like stevia is a very sweet herb. that's not necessarily good for baking. Like, you can't just take it and say, oh, I have this recipe calls for 1 cup of sugar, I can just you substitute. It's a little bit more difficult with that, but that can be an interesting thing to try in your like tea or coffee or something like that instead of sugar. The thing with stevia is it can be very sweet, as well as if it's in the sugar, it's like in a sugar packet, you definitely want to make sure that it doesn't have anything else in it, because sometimes they put in like dextrose or something like that with the stevia. So yeah, you really want to just make sure it just says stevia. And so you have liquid or, you know, powder forms. And then, so yeah, so stevia, brown rice syrup, coconut sugar is one of my favorites that, you know, I use because it's very easy to swap out 1 cup of sugar with 1 cup of coconut sugar. So it's a really a nice way to begin a sugar swap if you haven't already started doing, you know, haven't used anything for a while. So that's, and it doesn't spike your blood sugar as much. So that's the nice thing, like these natural sugars are going to keep your blood sugar a little more stable. They're going to provide you with nutrients that you're not going to get elsewhere. You know, like molasses, the blackstrap molasses is high in iron. So, you know, that can be very beneficial for women, especially during their time of menstruation and they're losing blood and the iron levels are going a little lower. And, you know, things like honey, if it's local, it can help you with your allergies. So there's a lot of, you know, different benefits to using a natural sugar compared to, you know, the highly refined, you know, white sugar, as well as, you know, the artificial sweeteners. So we've kind of talked a little bit about, you know, where they are in your diet and how to look for them. We've talked about some strategies to eliminate or reduce sugar intake, such as, you know, reading your food labels and, you know, making choices based on that, you know, planning ahead, slowing down, you know, getting enough sleep, exercising, and then, you know, making a swap. The other thing to look at, and I touched on it a little bit briefly earlier, is about why you want sugar. Like I said, you know, our bodies do need some sugar, but when we are craving sugars, when we are overeating with them, which is happening since the average of 156 pounds a year is just, you know, mind-boggling. So that means people are eating more than that as well as less than that. So you probably fall somewhere in a range. We can't avoid sugar. But to look at why you want the sugar. At this time of year, sometimes it's tradition, you know, like, okay, Thanksgiving, we had pumpkin pie, you know, it's just what your family does. So, you know, looking at that and how do you feel obligated? Is it something that you just really enjoy? Is it, you know, kind of like not the holiday without having a piece of mom's pumpkin pie, you know, kind of thing. So just being aware of why, whether it's, you know, like I said, it's, you know, tradition, you feel obligated, you're not really sure you can say no because you're afraid you're going to hurt someone's feelings, habitual. So, you know, like we have our morning routines, and sometimes that includes having things that include sugar. And so it can be very difficult to change that routine because it's habitual. And it can be emotional. You know, I mentioned being stressed out earlier as a reason why people reach for sugar, that hitting that low. So you may get the low at 2 o'clock in the afternoon or, you know, 11 o'clock in the morning, something like that. And reaching for the carbohydrates, and which is a natural choice in some ways because of what's going on in your body. You know, your blood sugar is lowering and you want something quick. Your brain is telling you like, hey, I need sugar, I need my fuel. You know, our body is not in balance right now, and carbohydrates can be the quickest way to initially remake that balance. It just ends up causing a bigger cycle. So, you know, looking at, you know, time of day, your emotions, you know, a lot of women reach for things that are sweet when they're stressed out, or when they've had, you know, just feeling very emotional. Habitual, of course, you know, tradition, obligation, things like that. And look at your hormones, your cycle. For women, we go through a monthly cycle, and there are different times that we may want more sweet than other times. So it's something to be aware of and to, you know, accept and make changes. And so kind of make adjustments, because I'm going to be talking about here shortly foods that our body considers to be sweet, but that are not necessarily a sugar. Like, you know, what I was talking about before, you know, sugar, stevia, coconut sugar, those things are sweeteners. You know, they are very sweet. Our bodies know that they're sweet, and they can take the place of sugar, the white stuff. But there are foods that you can incorporate into your diet that act as sweet, so then you're giving your body the sweetness that it may need, but in a way, again, that's providing you with other nutrients, other things for your body that it needs. So fiber is a huge one. You know, this time of year, you know, vitamin C, the beta carotene, those things are all really, you know, a good immune boosting, you know, zinc, things like that. So there, you know, if you look at seasonal foods, a lot of the seasonal foods right now are, you know, the winter squashes, which are orange fleshed, you know, sweet potatoes or yams, which can be orange flesh or other colors, but, you know, generally in the orange-red family. You've got carrots. You know, all of these things contain beta carotene and different nutrients that we need. Vitamin C, because of the color, you can tell that that's what it has. So those are things that are coming in season. You know, our fruits are apples and pears and cranberries. So those are all things that our bodies will recognize as sugar. A good rule of thumb is things that are grown under the ground. So, you know, we're talking about our sweet potatoes, you know, turnips, rutabagas, parsnips, beets, onion, our bodies consider sweet. So those are really great things to start adding into your diet to help to lessen the amount of sweet that you want, and giving you a better option of what to choose. And so the root vegetables, your winter squashes, are definitely kind of, even though they're grown above the ground, have the same kind of quality. And then, of course, our fall and winter fruits, while they're not necessarily local, seasonal for southwestern Pennsylvania, you know, we're going to be coming into the season where oranges and pineapple and things like that are being imported from Florida, from other places into our area for the season. And so those in small quantities can be helpful as well, because they're a little bit of a sweeter fruit. But our local, locally grown in-season fruits right now are the apples, are the pears. You know, we also say we get cranberries coming in as well, even though they're not necessarily locally grown. So those are all fruits that you can use in your diet to offset, to, you know, eliminate food cravings for the sweeter pastas, breads, things like that, cookies. And then the other food item that really can help are whole grains, especially like your brown rice. Again, they are things that our body reads as sweet, and so they can help to eliminate food cravings just by, incorporating them into our diet. And so we have our sweet foods, the root vegetables, anything grown, underground, even if you kind of think wow, they're not sweet, our bodies think of them as sweet. Our winter squashes, the winter fruits, and the whole grains. The other aspect to look at is how much protein you're getting. Because I find that things are kind of, you either crave the like or the opposite. I mean, you may have seen the commercial for Pringles, where they used to say, once you pop, you can't stop, kind of thing. And so, yeah, you have this thing where you've eaten something and, oh, you want more because it tasted really good. So thinking about cookies, you've eaten that cookie and it's like, wow, that tasted really good. Maybe I'll have another one. So that's one way of perpetuating wanting sweets. The other is to have an overly salty dish, because then our body wants to balance and, have something sweet. So thinking of that in mind, looking at your protein, which tends to be, it's needed, it can balance, it can prevent the cravings, but too much, it can cause you to want something sweet. So yeah, again, there's this balance, and it's individual for you, like how much protein is enough for you to feel good, but without causing you to want something, carbohydrate-based, sweet-based. So those are a couple of things to be looking at. And if you do find that you are struggling with, wanting more of something because you've already eaten it, then I would suggest investing in a tongue scraper. I've seen them at Whole Foods. You can buy them online. You can even just use a metal spoon. Instead you're flipping it over so the curved edge is on top, and then you just scrape your tongue lightly. I mean, you don't want to choke yourself and you don't want to, cut your tongue. But basically, using that on a regular basis can help to eliminate your sugar cravings as well. Because if we're going for the, talking about the like, breeds like, and too much of one opposite will want you to, go the other way. Scraping your tongue removes the residue from your food. So it kind of, brushing your teeth is wonderful, flossing your teeth is awesome, but the tongue scraper helps to get that clean off your taste buds. So it kind of creates a nice clean slate that can help. I do have the question bar lit up, so if you guys have questions, please feel free to type it in, and I'll be happy to answer them. Just to kind of a little bit more, I mean, I definitely would love to hear your own success stories, or your struggles, or what you're planning on, trying out this holiday season. You can definitely, on Facebook, on social media, use the hashtag SugarSwap. And so that way we can start a dialogue and share with other people how we are planning on creating a healthier holiday season for yourself and for others, and what you're going to be doing to swap out that sugar that's so prevalent. Which is a nice thing. Like I said, I've given some ideas on how to incorporate different foods, different things. So that way you're going into the new year not feeling sluggish, not feeling worn out, not, or that it's time for a diet or a detox or something like that. Starting now, you can make these small changes to your day that, allows you to feel energetic and really good going through the holiday season and starting the new year in a really good place. So definitely would love to hear from you with the hashtag SugarSwap. I also, in 2015 is going to be an amazing year. I'm going to be planning more of these webinars. Also in-person events. So my first in-person event for 2015 is on January 21st from 6 to 8 at the Connellsville Free Library in Connellsville, Pennsylvania, where we'll be doing easy weeknight meals to add color to your plate. And so I hope that you will join me for that event or some of the other virtual events that will be happening throughout 2015. But yes, definitely, if you guys have any questions, I would, love to answer them. And, or if you have any comments, things like that, definitely. Being that this is my first Google On Air webinar, I'm not quite sure if you know where the question box is. When I hover over my screen, I get a line of icons down the left, and that tells me, to get the Q&A. Okay, awesome. Okay, so awesome. We got a question. What is the lowest glycemic sugar swap suggestion? I would say the lowest glycemic sugar swap suggestion would be 2. One would be the winter fruits of the apples, the pears, and they are very low on the glycemic index, so they are going to help to balance your blood sugar. They're going to keep you sweet, but not like too sweet. But as way as the sweeteners, I would say the lowest would be stevia, with coconut sugar being next. Like I said, stevia actually can be very sweet tasting. It can also be a little bit bitter, so some people don't like it. So coconut sugar would be a better way of, trying to balance that. Okay, so another one is agave nectar, a good sugar swap. I say no. What agave nectar is it's mostly fructose. So fructose is in our fruits, so that's part of why it's called fructose. But with the agave nectar, it's still pretty processed, and it's actually, I've seen articles about it where it's actually just as high in fructose as high fructose corn syrup. So it's not necessarily a good frequent use sugar. I mean, I would say eliminate it, but if it's something that gets you down, then use it as a tool to slowly, back off on that kind of sugar. Okay. So the next one is honey too much sugar intake, or is it a good substitute for tea? Yeah, I think honey is a good sugar to use for tea and things like that. Again, you could overdo it, just like any sweetener. So I would put in the minimal amount that you feel you can use. I mean, I definitely use a lot less than some other people that I know. So I mean, it's definitely a personal balance. So I would just say, like, try to keep reducing it, down to a bare minimum sweetness, like that you can tolerate. Like I said, honey has properties that are really good for allergies and asthma and things like that if you get local honey. I also encourage you to find raw honey if you can. I mean, I've seen it at some of my local grocery stores. Some places are more expensive than others. Like, so if you go to like the big chain store, you might pay more for raw honey than at a health food store. And if you can find a local source, that's even even better. But it's definitely more sweet than sugar. So like I said, you kind of need less. And so for like baking, it's like a half a cup to 2/3 of a cup per cup of sugar. So if your recipe calls for 1 cup of sugar, you'd be using like a half a cup of honey. to kind of keep it about the same sweetness, but with that. And like the raw, again, you know, saying not only does it help with allergies, but it contains, you know, more vitamins, minerals, and enzymes that you lose in the pasteurization process. So again, that's why I would say raw would be better to use if you can find it. So, okay. Okay. Does anyone else have any questions that you would like me to expand more on, or that I didn't cover that you would like to know about? And again, I really encourage you to post on social media using the hashtag SugarSwap to let me know how you're doing and what you're planning on swapping out this holiday season, or what has worked for you. Either one of the strategies, substituting for something more natural, or looking at why you're choosing those kind of foods and how you're going to address that. Whether, like I said, it could be emotional, habitual, obligation, tradition, things like that. But kind of to draw attention to that, or whether you're going to start using the sweet vegetables, fruits, grains, or using one of the other strategies to kind of curb how much sugar you're consuming this season. Okay. Well, I'm not seeing any more questions, so I will be sending you very shortly the handout on sugar swapping that can help guide you after tonight with looking at your food labels and looking at what to substitute and how to use those substitutes in baking and in cooking and things like that. So I really am thankful that you joined me today. You took the time to learn something new and improve the holiday season, improve your health during this time so you can enjoy it more fully. This webinar is recorded. I mean, that's the benefit of the Google On Air. So you should be able to follow this link back if you want to review any portion of it. And so thank you again for joining me, and I hope to see you again in 2015.